guys, welcome back to Study Astrology with me. This is the third installment of this series. So in this episode, which is episode 3, we will be covering the zodiac sign that precedes right after Aries, and that is Taurus. And believe you me, for some reason this video has been really hard to film for me because this is my fifth go at recording this video, which is weird because I can usually do these in one take. So forgive me if my voice sounds a bit parched or dry. It's because I've been doing this again and again. So this video will follow a similar structure as the video we covered on Aries. We will be looking at the basic information, the history, the mythology, the scientific detail, as well as the qualities of Taurus. So without any further delay, let's begin this video with an introduction to Taurus. In this introduction, I basically listed down the basic information on Taurus that a lot of us may already know, but it will be good for us to cover because there may be a lot of new people who are watching this video who may not be aware of astrology like most people are. So that's why I'll start off with the dates for the sun sign according to tropical zodiac, and that is April 20 to May 21. So basically what this means that if you're born within this range of dates, you are a Taurus. The symbol associated with Taurus is the bull. It originates from the Taurus constellation. The element of this sign is earth, and the color associated with it is green, which is why I'm wearing green today. And this is something I hope to continue throughout the series. The zodiac type is fixed, and the sign ruler is Venus. Another classification of this sign is that it is a negative, feminine, or a yin sign. And more on this subject later, because this is just another classification of signs, just like fixed, mutable, and cardinal. And it's a bit too much to get into right now in this video. It is associated with bull worship, and Taurus makes up 30 degrees to 60 degrees of the zodiac band of constellations. Now that that part's done with, let's move on to my favorite part, which is discussing the history and mythology of Taurus. And this section is probably my favorite. I love to do research about it, and I love to speak about it because these are things that I just found out the day before recording this video, and I think they're all very interesting. So as mentioned before, Taurus is associated with bull worship. It was also the first zodiac sign to be established by the Mesopotamians and was called the Great Bull of Heaven. Babylon, in fact, has a story about this bull. They call it the Heavenly Bull, and it was also known by the name Bull Apin. And this constellation is linked to the story of Gilgamesh. So Gilgamesh was a king, and Ishtar was a goddess who liked Gilgamesh and made advances on him, but Gilgamesh rejected her. She was so angered by that she decided to send the Heavenly Bull to kill Gilgamesh. And their fight is supposed to be reflected by the constellations in the stars to this day, because Gilgamesh the king is represented by the Orion constellation, and Taurus constellation is right next to that, which is why the story goes on that they are supposed to still be fighting in space, in the skies, to this day. Then we have Greek mythology, which shows Taurus in two main stories, which both involve Zeus seducing women and cheating on his wife, may I add. So the first one, which is more notable, is about the princess Europa. So Zeus apparently started liking Europa and decided to gain her attention by turning into a handsome bull. She saw him in her herd, and obviously he stood out, so she decided to get on his back, and at that point Zeus ran off, where he kept running until he reached Crete, and there it was where he revealed what his true identity was, the god Zeus. And then he seduced Europa, and they eventually went on to have 3 sons. Zeus was so proud and so happy about this accomplishment that he actually promoted the bull into a constellation. But another source says that upon Europa's death, Zeus turned her into a constellation and then took on the shape of a bull. And when he went to join her in the skies, that is when the Taurus constellation was formed. The second story is of Io. So Zeus apparently had an affair with her, according to some sources. Some sources do claim that Io was rejecting his advances, but regardless, Hera, his wife, had found out about it, and she was looking for Io to keep her away from Zeus, and Zeus knew that. So he turned Io into a heifer, or some sources say a bull, to hide her from his wife. But she knew about this, and she asked him to give her the heifer as a gift, and he did. After which, she basically kept an eye on Io to make sure that Zeus wasn't coming anywhere near her, but Zeus obviously did free her. And that did continue to anger Hera, who sent a gadfly after Io to torment her more. And then she had a long journey, at the end of which Zeus did turn her back into a human. And that is where the story of the Taurus constellation comes from, according to some sources. That basically her journey was commemorated by Zeus in the form of giving or in the form of ascending the bull into the stars. So that is the second story in Greek mythology. It's interesting to note that Zeus is Jupiter in Roman mythology, and Jupiter is the planet which has two moons, Io and Europa. There is another Greek mythology story associated with Taurus the bull, where a Greek mythographer Husilos says that the bull Taurus is the same as the Cretan bull, who was one of the labors of Hercules. But it is a lesser known version of Taurus constellation mythology. Next, it contains Pleiades, which is the star cluster that was, It contains Pleiades, which was the star cluster that was revered by the Zuni of New Mexico, and more. Because this cluster, which was also known as seed stars, helped with timekeeping and told people when to plant their crops. It also has a red giant, which represents the red eye of the bull Taurus. And Greeks are the ones who basically believe that part. So that constellation, as well as Pleiades, were also known as the bull and the seven sisters, according to many indigenous cultures. So these are basically just a few collections of the mythology and the history associated with the Taurus constellation, and there is a wide variety of it, that's for sure. But now that we're done with this section, let's move on to the science part of the Taurus constellation, and we look into some facts about it. We start off with the fact that it is a very noticeable constellation, and that means that it is mostly visible to the naked eye. Obviously, circumstances like your eyesight, and also like how clear your sky is do matter when you're trying to spot this constellation, but it is a relatively noticeable constellation. It is famous for its red giant star, Aldebaran, which means in Arabic, the bright one of the follower. And it also has the noticeable star cluster, Pleiades. So Aldebaran is the bullseye and is the brightest star in Taurus and the 14th brightest star in the sky. And this is the eye that is claimed to be glaring at Orion, the Hunter constellation. Aldebaran is also part of a V-shaped asterism, which is a group of stars known as Hyades, and that makes up the bull's face in the constellation. The Pleiades cluster is also known as the Seven Sisters in most indigenous cultures, and in that cluster, 6 out of 7 of those stars are variable B stars, which means that they change their brightness over the course of the day. Moreover, on the northwest part of the Taurus constellation, we see the supernova remnant, known as Messier 1, which is also popularly known as the Crab Nebula. So basically, there is a lot of a lot going on in the Taurus constellation, a lot of things, a lot of clusters. There's a nebula, there's a red giant, and all of that links back to the mythology and history, and you can see why this notable constellation was the source of so many stories and so many different beliefs. Now that we're done with this section, we move on to Taurus qualities, which is probably what most of you guys are waiting for. So the pros are that Taurans are sensual, they are loyal, they are dependable, they are hardworking, especially at arts, they are secure, they are humble, they are conservative, they are generous, they are romantic, and they are honest, sometimes brutally honest. Some cons about them is that they are lazy about most things that don't catch their interest, they are stubborn, they are known to be gluttonous but also slow about a lot of things, which could be linked to the earth energy that they have. They are also known to be close-minded sometimes, which is the con part of the pro being conservative. They also have a very my way or the highway approach. So they believe themselves to be right in most cases, especially if they're not developed as people. Moreover, they are not adventurous. They can be a bit monotonous, they can be broody, and they can be possessive. So we know that there are different pros and cons, and what I've listed can have more positive outlooks and also more negative outlooks. So all of these are basically one side of a coin, and if you flip it over, it could manifest itself differently. So take all these qualities with a grain of salt, with a hope to improve yourself, because Taurus people aren't exactly good or bad, just like every other zodiac sign. So developing yourself as a human is essential to making sure that you embody more positive traits than negative. So the sensual side comes from Venus, because that is the planet that rules Taurus, and Venus is also the god of love. The earth energy brings about the stability, the materialism, the practicality, as well as the slow nature of Taurus. And its fixed nature is linked to the loyalty that Taurans have towards the people in their lives, as well as the stubbornness that they have. It is the second zodiac, and if we look at what placements this is detriment in or weak in, then traditionally it is supposed to be weak in Mars, because Mars is the opposite to Venus, and Venus is the ruler of Taurus. But modern beliefs are that Pluto is the placement in which Taurus is detriment. It is exalted, as in the second best placement is in Moon, and the fall or the weakest placement is supposed to be none traditionally, but modern beliefs believe that Uranus is the placement in which Taurus is weakest. It is a feminine sign, as mentioned before, which is why there's so much sensuality to it. And it is associated with the tarot card, the Hierophant, which we can understand because the Hierophant has a very fixed nature. The priest is sitting on a throne or like a big seat, and that shows the authority, but also the fixed, stubborn nature of Taurus. But also the generosity is also shown by how we see the Hierophant is teaching people below him, and I think that does capture how Taurus can be so knowledgeable and so dependable, especially when it comes to creative things like art. So I do think this is a very apt card association with that. And that is the conclusion of Taurus. I hope you gained some new insight about Taurus, especially all of these myths that follow it. And next up in this series, we'll be covering the zodiac sign Gemini. But thank you for watching my videos and for all the support you've been showing. And see you later, next week hopefully. Thank you.